The moment she enters your atmosphere, something shifts. Not just your attention, but your entire internal compass. Your thoughts scatter, your voice changes. You tell yourself it's chemistry, magnetism, instinct. But listen closely. That freeze response you feel? That's not attraction taking the wheel. That's your psychological foundation cracking under pressure. You think you're the observer. Look again. You're the one being measured. Sigmund Freud spent his career mapping the invisible war inside you. He carved the mind into three territories: the id, your raw, screaming want; the ego, your negotiator with reality; and the superego, your internalized critic. When she walks in, your id floods the system. It doesn't see a person, it sees an objective. And when that primal engine overrides your command center, your ego folds. You laugh too long. You offer up pieces of yourself like tribute. You're drafting a surrender treaty in your head, written in the fine print of, "If I impress her, she will choose me." So ask yourself the question that cuts through the noise. Why does one person's presence have the authority to dismantle your composure? Your issue isn't desire. Desire is fuel. Your issue is that the engine is driving the pilot. You haven't lost strength, you've lost the steering wheel. And in the next few minutes, you're taking it back. First, you stop the internal bleed. You catch the id in the act. Freud's iceberg metaphor was a warning. The mass below the surface is your unexamined hunger. When she glances your way and your pulse spikes, that's not fate. That's a biological circuit flooding you with orders disguised as feelings. Command begins with a single act. You insert a pause. Slow your movements by a fraction. Let your voice settle lower. Count 2 full seconds after she speaks before you respond. Hold her gaze without the reflexive smile. You are telling your nervous system and hers who regulates the temperature here. The man who reacts first is always reacting to the other person's frame, and the battlefield belongs to the one who sets the frame, not the one who chases it. But composure is just the gate, because if you only bottle up the pressure, you eventually explode. This brings us to the material in the basement, the part of you you've edited out. You've curated a version of yourself that's safe, agreeable, but underneath lives envy, competitiveness, an assertive current you've labeled as too much. Freud called this the shadow. What you refuse to own owns you. You repress your intensity and it leaks out as awkward energy. You suppress your competitive nature and it curdles into resentment. Shadow work isn't about letting the wolf gut everyone. It's about acknowledging you have teeth so you can choose when to use them. A wolf that doesn't know its own strength is dangerous to itself. A wolf that does moves with terrifying economy. Ask yourself, when you feel your own intensity rise, do you pull back? Do you dim your voltage? The shift starts with admitting the want. Yes, I am attracted. Yes, I feel the pull. Sit in that truth. Then channel that voltage. Let it root your feet to the floor. You become a reservoir behind a dam, not a flood. People sense the power held in reserve. But here is where the structure fails. You enter carrying an invisible contract. You believe your performance of charm obligates a return. If I make her laugh, she should be interested. Freud mapped these underground transactions. You aren't being genuine, you're being a negotiator, offering a service and expecting payment in attention. Nothing devalues you faster than an unspoken invoice. The surgical fix is to amputate the expectation. Enter with the internal declaration that her response is data, not destiny. Ask a question because you're curious, not to build a bridge. Be the one who closes the conversation first while energy is still high. You're demonstrating your time has gravity. This creates a gap, and in that gap, power shifts. Now the real test begins, because attraction is the entrance ramp, testing is the highway. When a tease lands or she pulls attention away, why does your chest tighten? That's the ancient fear of falling in the hierarchy. But a predator doesn't fear losing status. It creates it by refusing to react. She challenges you. She goes quiet. You feel the urge to fill the silence. Why? Because your identity is invested in her approval. But a test isn't an attack, it's a calibration. She's measuring your depth. Is your stability conditional on her sunshine, or does it run deeper? If you flinch, you fail. If you stay rooted, you pass. When the jab comes, let a half smile cross your face. Pause longer than feels uncomfortable. Maintain relaxed eye contact. That silence becomes tension. She reveals more trying to find your edge. You reveal nothing. Mystery has its own gravity. Now we arrive at the core circuit, frame. Frame is the unspoken agreement about what's happening. Who sets the emotional temperature? Your body broadcasts your frame, the micro-tension in your jaw, the pitch in your voice. Your physiology is a live feed, so you seize control. Lower your breathing, drop your shoulders, slow your speech. Before answering a question that matters, let the pause sit heavy. Silence is not empty. Silence is presence. Ask yourself, when she enters your space, does your energy contract or expand? Expansion is the posture of the unthreatened. Visualize roots through the floor. Become the thing that doesn't move. She feels this subconsciously. But frame without detachment is a posture that exhausts you. This is the final gate, detachment from outcome. This is where most get stuck. You still want it. You still have the images. That attachment creates a micro-frequency of need. Freud called it repetition compulsion. You aren't reacting to her. You're reacting to every time you had to earn affection. The paradox is, the moment you genuinely detach from the need for a specific outcome, the probability rises, not from game, because your nervous system stops broadcasting scarcity. A predator in abundance doesn't hunt everything. It rests in its own completeness. Before interaction, decide you are whole with or without her response. Visualize walking away with the same internal temperature. End while energy is high. Ending first signals your world has gravity. If you master this, you become sovereign. If not, you remain a reactor. Reactors are predictable. Predictable men are interchangeable. Now see the full architecture. You recognize the primal urge. You integrate the denied self. You cancel unconscious bargains. You command your broadcast. You anchor identity in something immovable. From that place, sovereignty radiates without effort. So ask the final question. When she looks into your eyes, does she see her power to move you, or does she see a stillness that reflects only its own depth? Stillness commands. Stillness attracts. Stillness is the signature of the man who cannot be moved. Ignore this, nothing shifts. You stay reactive, replaceable, predictable. Predictable men are safe. Safe men are forgotten, but composed men imprint, because composure under stimulus signals evolutionary advantage. Freud knew the deep currents drive the surface. Now, you control your current. Subscribe to Mindful Theory. Comment below, I am the still point. Write it, become it. The wolf doesn't whine for a seat at the table. It walks in, calm, certain, and takes its place without asking.